What is going on, everybody? You are back on another edition of Ballin Over Beers. I'm Justin Dupengeiser, and I'm joined, as always, by my guys, AK Howe and James Fitch. Fellas, it is draft week. I think we're going to see some fireworks. AK, what's going on, dude? Are you excited for the draft?
Oh, I can't wait for the draft. I just hope the Bengals don't do something stupid, but it's nice to have them picking 5, unlike James has to stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning to watch the Bills pick. That's what you get for having a good team.
Yeah, and they'll probably trade their pick away, so we'll stay up, and then they won't even make a pick.
That is what happened with my Chiefs. They don't even make a selection for, again, I think it's 2 out of the last 3 years they've traded their first round pick away.
Yeah.
But I'll take it. Proven commodity in the NFL. Left tackle, highway robbery. I can't believe that the Ravens actually traded Orlando Brown to Kansas City, being a rival and stuff. James, you brought up the question earlier in the chat, and I think it's a pretty interesting one. Like, what do you think is the best or biggest trade, maybe involving draft picks or on draft day? What do you think the biggest trade in NFL history is?
Yes, you and I think, had agreed, like, if we're counting it as like involving draft picks, like the Herschel Walker trade in, I think it was 1989, is crazy. Like, I was listening to a podcast that brought it up, and I never really knew anything about it, but it was, the way it worked out was the Cowboys traded Herschel Walker to the Minnesota Vikings for a bunch of players. I think it was like 5 players and a couple of draft picks, but they were all conditional. And basically Jimmy Johnson came out later and said, like, he never had any intention of keeping any of those players. Like, he knew he was going to cut them. And basically the stipulation was, if he cut them by February 1st of 1990, they got all these draft picks. They basically ended up getting 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, a 3rd-round pick, like a 6th-round pick, like crazy stuff. Ended up getting Emmitt Smith from it. I think it was Darren Woodson. And basically fueled like their dynasty run, like through the 90s and 3 Super Bowls. Like, that was a crazy trade that, just my age, like, I didn't really know anything about until hearing about it. So I think that's got to be up there.
Yeah, the amount of picks and the picks that they had, which I guess part of the stipulation always is, when you get all the picks, right, you have to hit on them, or it doesn't really matter that you trade it. And like, they hit on their picks, which, like you said, kind of fueled their dynasty run in the 90s. Icky, I thought that you brought up a pretty interesting one too, when you talked earlier, and it involves one of the best players of all time, if not the best receiver of all time.
When the 49ers traded up to draft Jerry Rice, arguably probably the only position you can say he's the greatest at. I mean, some people do debate Randy Moss, but that's a different subject. But, pretty wide regards that Jerry Rice is the best of all time, and he helped that organization win multiple Super Bowls, played forever, the best receiver of all time, in my opinion. And
yeah,
they didn't give up much to trade up for him. And I mean, they only moved up, I think, like 12 spots, but
yeah, it's crazy.
Go after the guy you want.
You look at him now too, he ran like a 4.6 or 4.7 at the combine or something like that. And nowadays you see that he probably wouldn't have probably would have fell like to a 5th, 6th round undrafted or something crazy like that. And instead he goes on and he has the touchdown record all time by like a billion. He's got like 220 something, and the next closest guy is at like 180 something, which is insane.
His stats are like Wayne Gretzky's stats, like in hockey. Like, most of them won't ever be touched.
Right.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane. But speaking about those 49ers, they're somebody, man, I think that Kyle Shanahan might have come out with some of the best all-time quotes I've ever heard when he was talking about, he said, what did he say? He said, I like 5 quarterbacks at 3. And then he says, I don't even know if we'll be live by Sunday. And I couldn't stop laughing. I thought that was one of the best sound bites of all time.
His quote made it sound like he was going for a late lunch. It was like, I like 5 guys at 3.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
something like that. That, and the whole, like, I don't know if we're even going to be alive on Sunday. Like,
unreal. I
mean, they know who they're taking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't trade up all that and have no idea who you want to take. They have their big board. They have 1, 2, and 3, and they know who they're taking.
Assuming that it's Lawrence 1 and Wilson 2, James, who do you think that they should take at quarterback?
Who they should take?
Yeah. So you have Fields, Lance, and Mac Jones.
I don't really know. I don't know. I like Justin Fields, and I think he's probably the third option for them. I don't think they're going to take him. It'd be awesome if they did, because all the rumors are it's either Mac Jones or it's Trey Lance. You know, the personnel guys want Trey Lance. Shanahan wants Jones. And it'd be awesome if they just came out and took Justin Fields and just smoke screened everyone. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
Okay, is this the biggest smoke screen of all time? Or are they actually going to take Mac Jones with it?
I don't know. It would be an awesome smoke screen, like James said. It would just start the draft. Like every year, I feel like we have all this hype around the draft, and then like it ends out, kind of just like free agency
Yeah.
and trades. It always peters out, but I would love to see him come out and just draft Fields and then throw the whole draft up in the air, and it would be awesome.
Yeah, I think that would be insane. And like you said, I think that usually there's a lot of hype around the draft with trades. And like I feel like already the trades have already happened, right? Like the 49ers traded up, the Dolphins traded back, and then the Dolphins traded back up. Like,
Yeah.
that seems, I mean, the thing that I could see happening is say it goes, Lawrence, then Wilson, and then it goes Mac Jones or whatever, and then you have like a Justin Fields and a Trey Lance there. The team at 4, like Atlanta, who needs probably more picks and should trade down, like a Denver or a New England or even like a Carolina or Washington or Carolina, somebody like that trading up for a quarterback to get one of those two guys. If Atlanta stays there and they take, let's say, Kyle Pitts, what do you think that does for him fantasy wise, AK?
Dynasty wise, I love him. I wouldn't draft him in redrafts just because of the history of tight ends. I mean, I would, but not early enough where I think people are going to be drafting him in redrafts. If he was there late, I would throw a flyer on him. But Dynasty, I love him. Matt Ryan is a little underrated in my opinion. He's
You want
pretty
to trade
good.
for him?
Puts up good numbers. Yeah, I'll trade for him. I'll give you a fourth. And they're saying they're going to be trading Julio away. So that's just going to open up a lot more target share if Julio's gone and now they're relying on Ridley and Pitts.
Do you know where Julio's going to get traded to?
So Kansas City.
Yeah, he's going to go to Kansas City, and everybody's going to watch the absolute world just burn, and I'm going to love every second of it. I'm trying to look up here because I looked it up the other day, and it was insane. Where what's his face? Kyle Pitts' average draft position is right now, and obviously it's crazy early, and it's crazy that people are actually even drafting. But like he was getting drafted so early, like he was getting drafted as like tight end, like 3 or 4, like which is
for dynasty, like for dynasty startup leagues, I could see that.
No, I'm talking for like
redraft leagues,
like redraft or best ball leagues and stuff like that.
That's dumb.
Yeah, that's insane. Like we've talked about how it takes usually tight ends, a couple years to get going as far as like rookies are concerned. Like I think Pitts is a different beast. Like that dude he's an absolute freak show. Like he is insane. So I don't know. We'll see. Like everybody's basically saying he's basically a receiver that blocks like a tight end. Like he moves like a receiver. He runs routes like a receiver. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what he does. With Fields and Lance, kind of going back to their quarterback positions, do you think, James, that there's an ideal landing spot for either of those guys or Mac Jones? Say if Mac Jones doesn't, for some reason, go to the 49ers.
New England.
Yeah.
Is a team I think of. Washington. I think with Washington, if they go with one of those guys, I think Fitzy's the starter the first year, unless he gets hurt or has one of his just 4 interception games after going on a 3-game tear. Late in the season, I could see one of those guys getting put in. Detroit, I guess, is not really ideal for the player because they're probably going to sit behind Goff for a little while. But I think Detroit would be smart to take one of those guys if they can. Denver's another team where they have a lot of question marks at the quarterback position too. Those are the teams that come to mind. I've seen mocks where like Fields goes as late as 32 and Tampa scoops him up to replace Brady, in a couple of years. So I've seen so many mock drafts that are just so different this year, and I know you see that year over year, but this year is just, I don't know, it's crazy with these quarterbacks.
It is for sure. AK, do you have like what an ideal fit that you think maybe for Fields or Lance or Mac Jones or anything like that?
If I was any of those guys, I would want to go to a franchise with an established coaching staff, or even maybe just a strong front office. I think with Josh Allen, it kind of shows if you build around a guy and give him a little trust, you can get some good success from him. I think a lot of organizations go way too early on guys and give up too early on some people. But if I was Justin Fields, I think the Patriots is a great fit for him. Mac Jones, I actually think the 49ers is a good fit. And Trey Lance is a project. So I think he's someone that needs to go to, a strong organization that's going to give him 2 or 3 years and actually build around him and his strengths, not throw him in there for 18 games and just say, oh, we're firing the coach, moving on to the next guy.
Yeah, I think with any rookie quarterback, stabilization is important, right? With head coaches, front office, and stuff like that. I think Lance of those three, I think he actually has the most upside. I think that he is so raw. He's only started like 11 college games in his entire career. He is like physically so gifted. Like he dominated at North Dakota State, running and throwing. So I'll be interested. I think him going to like a Washington team, I think that would be super, super interesting, and that could be a really cool fit with him, like you talked about, James Fitzy starting, and then him getting to learn under him, and then you still got all those weapons in Washington, like we talked about before.
Yeah.
A super interesting one would be Justin Fields in Carolina with Joe Brady, right?
I was going to ask about that. Like, I've seen mocks where they take another quarterback at the 8 position, and like, do you think that's smart?
I think so. I think that you have, it's the most important position in football, and I know you took your shot with Darnold or whatever, but I mean, to me, you go get Justin Fields there. I think Fields is really more talented than Sam Darnold is, right? And we've seen what Joe Brady can do. Basically, everywhere he's gone, he's created a passing offense that is just elite, right? He went to LSU and completely revolutionized that passing game, and Joe Burrow ended up being the first overall pick basically because of it. And then he goes to Carolina, and last year he has 3 receivers that have almost 1,000 yards, which is pretty insane. With Teddy Bridgewater at the helm, and I can tell you Justin Fields is way more talented as a passer than Teddy Bridgewater is. Fields is getting a lot of crap, but the guy he's got talent. I mean, he's got probably one of the best arm talents, if not the best in the entire draft, right? He's right there with Lawrence in my eyes as far as ability to throw the football. I think Lawrence is a little bit better with kind of everything else, but Fields is right there. So I think that'd be super interesting to see where he goes. Obviously the quarterbacks are kind of the story, and like they're going to have probably 3 of them right away. But this draft is loaded with wide receiver talent and running back talent too. The first 3 receivers, and I've seen, Jamar Chase has been the consensus one, but lately I've seen Jalen Waddle sneaking up and getting picked in front of him in some mocks, which I think is pretty interesting. And then you also have Devontae Smith. Of those 3 guys, James, we'll kick it back to you. In the earlies, you see guys like Detroit, Cincinnati, even with Jamar Chase. I know, AK, you would hate that because you want an offensive lineman, I think, there to protect Joe Burrow. But did you see the picture, by the way, of the Bengals unveiling their new uniform? And Joe, Joe Burrow's sitting there, and he's got that massive scar from. They say it's like anytime they think they're going to draft a receiver, just zoom in on that knee and go, "Oh, I guess we should draft a lineman now." But
I was just going to say,
Jamar Chase, what?
I think the Bengals, like with Boyd, one of the best slot receivers in the league, and Higgins last year proved, he can be a legit receiver. I'm a firm believer in building your team inside out, and I would be pretty upset if they draft a receiver at 5. Go to James.
I think Jamar Chase and Sewell are like, I think that's your 5 and 6 potentially right there. I don't know if Miami would go with Sewell. I think Cincinnati should go Sewell. I can see them going Jamar Chase. I think he's going to be the first receiver taken off the board, whether it's the Bengals, the Dolphins, or Detroit. I could see them going Jamar Chase. There's a lot of rumors. Just Burrow wants to go out and get his guy from college. I don't think that's the best decision for them. I'm with UAK. I think they need to protect Burrow at all costs. So they should go Sewell there. But regardless, I think Jamar Chase is going to be the first receiver off the board. If he doesn't go to the Bengals, I think Miami scoops him up at 6.
Well, and that's my thing with Cincinnati. Like, if you're Cincinnati, do you think it's better to get Penny Sewell and Terrace Marshall perhaps in the second, a guy like that from LSU who could fall into the second, or like Jamar Chase and Dylan Radin?
Leatherwood.
Yeah, or Leatherwood, or something like that. Like, to me, it's Sewell and Terrace Marshall by a lot. Like, Sewell, I think, is considerably better than those other tackles.
Yeah.
Or just go Sewell and Leatherwood and just only draft offensive linemen.
Just protect Burrow. I mean, that's not a bad choice. I mean, look what Kansas City just did. They just won the Super Bowl because their linemen were hurt and not playing well, and they said, yeah, that's not going to happen again. And they went out and traded and signed, and they completely rebuilt their offensive line in this offseason.
Justin, do you believe quarterbacks wanting to get someone they have familiarity with from college, like Tua, draft him Waddle or Smith, or Burrow and Jamar Chase, or is that at this level we're going to draft the best player even though you played with him in college?
I think that you just draft the best player. I mean, it's an interesting situation with those two because like those players are so good too. Like they're deserving of being drafted high. So it's interesting. And I actually think that like if I'm looking at like maybe the skill sets of those quarterbacks, like I think those respective receivers probably fit them better. Like you think about like Tua, his strength is like accuracy in the intermediate areas and like short areas. Like, well, get Jalen Waddle, who can create space by himself and, let Tua throw with anticipation and accuracy in those short and intermediate areas and go and do that. And where Burrow throws a good deep ball. He doesn't have a great arm, but he still throws a good deep ball, and he can use those big receivers to throw outside the hashes. And he is familiar with that type of offense and that spread wide open offense where he likes to have 3, 4, 5 wide receivers on the field and spread out and be able to see it. So I could see the argument for both for sure. Those guys are uber talented, each receiver. I mean, I think the worst case scenario for those receivers and Devontae Smith for that matter is going to Detroit, right?
Oh, yeah.
That is, I mean, and they need a receiver too. Like their offense is disgusting to look at.
Detroit should just keep trading down and just.
Yes.
I don't want to say punt this year, but like just load up because they're not going anywhere this year. And I don't know that they could go Sewell if he falls to them. I don't know. A receiver's not going to do anything for them this year.
Right.
So like a tackle. What's that?
I was going to say the only issue with that is that's not a knee biter move, James. You got to go all in.
It's not a sexy pick. I'm all about the sexy picks.
That is for sure. That is for sure.
Who's the first defensive player to go off the board? I mean, this draft, the first round seems like it's going to be offense heavy, but who do we think is the first defensive player?
My guess would be either J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain at 10 to Dallas.
Yeah, Surtain and Micah Parsons are the two names that I think of.
Parsons, I don't know. Did you guys see the whole situation with him?
No.
Okay, so there's allegations from a former teammate, and they are like serious, and I can't believe it hasn't been like getting any traction, basically not talked about at all. But it's basically like him, Parsons, and like a couple other Penn State players were like assaulting him in the locker room, calling him stuff, putting their.
I've heard immaturity. I've heard immaturity thrown around with his name, but I didn't realize this was the stuff that.
I mean, so the allegations that are coming out is like basically sexual assault. Like it's like serious.
So heard the story, didn't realize it was him.
Yeah. There's going to be a video on draft night of him teabagging someone that's coming out, right?
What is this, Limmer Tunzel situation?
Yeah.
He's going to drop down the board and the Raiders will take him.
Yeah.
No, he's going to
Oh,
drop down. The Dolphins will take him again. And then in 3 years, trade him to the Texans for 9 firsts.
yeah,
There you go.
it is. But yeah, I could see J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain. I think either.
I've seen mocks with Sertain going like as high as like 7 and 8.
Yeah, I could see that. He's a
I
stud.
think the Cowboys at 10 is like the biggest lock. Like Surtain and the Cowboys is like the second highest lock outside of like Lawrence and Jacksonville from like mock drafts that I've seen.
Yeah. Well, one, Jerry Jones loves Alabama players.
Yeah.
Right. So like
Smart.
there's that. And I mean Surtain's a stud. The other thing I was thinking the other day, somebody said this and I didn't even realize it, but how old do you feel that Patrick Surtain's son, Patrick Surtain's second, is in the draft? So was Asante Samuel's son,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And J.C. Horn is the son of Joe Horn, the wide receiver that used to play for the Saints.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know
Is
that.
he really?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yeah, that's wild, right? I didn't realize that till the other day, but I was like, Jeepers Creepers. Like I remember watching these guys like play. Like I'm getting old. Holy cow. Running back wise, first of all, I think the over under right now for running backs is 1.5. James, over or under 1.5.
Over.
AK?
I'm going to go with, that's so hard.
Yes, it is.
It could be 3, I think.
I'm going to go with over because I think the Bills are going to take one. And I don't know who else, but I think there's going to be some kind of weird pick that like you're not expecting, like Jacksonville
Or
some,
like
a team
Washington.
trading back up. Yeah.
Washington's going to draft a running back, and everyone's going to just lose their minds. I think the Steelers are named they're associated with running backs.
Yeah,
Buffalo.
Like ETN.
Miami, the Jets. Those are
The
I think
Jets,
Miami's too
Dolphins.
high to draft. They would have to trade down. Or where's their second pick?
18.
18.
Yeah, that's a little too high for my liking. But
Who do you think is the first back off the board?
Harris.
Najee.
Yeah, I think Najee's the best. Javonte Williams, he's gotten a lot of steam, and I'm not.
He's
hurt.
the third name that I think could sneak up like the Tampa Bay. I could see them doing something dumb like that.
Somebody who was listening to it today said that
I've seen stuff the Bills are looking at him.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and I that's where I'd be mad if they took him as their first round pick. I'm okay with Harris and ETN, but Javonte Williams I think would be a head scratcher for me.
I'm not big on Williams. I think that he doesn't have as good as vision and like short area quickness, like open field moves and stuff like that, where like you watch him in like college and like he is like a battering ram. Like he just is constantly running into guys, where guys like Najee, like they're making people miss in short areas, and Etienne has that track speed where he's so explosive. Like to me, those are the guys that you want in the first round. Like Javonte Williams is just not that guy to me. So
Well, they have 2 running backs out of North Carolina, Michael Carter as well. They both put up numbers.
Michael Carter is the complete opposite of Javonte Williams. That dude is a water bug. He is quick and shifty and elusive, and a good pass catcher, and he's good. I like him probably even a little bit more than Javonte, to be honest.
Where's our local guy Jarrett Patterson going? What round?
5th, maybe.
5th plus, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Plus, he's
If the Bills, I
solid.
wouldn't mind the Bills taking him. That would be kind of like a cool little story. It would kind of be like the Philip Lindsay story, but in Buffalo.
Yeah.
You know what he reminds me of is Alfred Morris.
Yeah.
You know, he's kind of like a one cut kind of downhill, not like
Is he that big?
I don't think he's that big, but I don't think Morris was as big as you think he was.
I thought he was.
He just wore big shoulder pads.
I thought he was a tank. That's just how I remember him. That doesn't mean that's accurate.
Well, he did play in like from 89 to like 2014, where the shoulder pads were huge on running backs. So could be that. But I think that I could see the 5th round for him. It would be cool if Buffalo drafted him late. Any other interesting names that you think, or things that you might think might happen in the first round for the draft?
I think it would be pretty crazy to see the Patriots trade up and draft a quarterback, because that pretty much goes against everything Bill Belichick's done his entire career.
Yeah,
So I just think that would be pretty interesting to see.
I agree. I
They're
agree.
the most unpredictable team, and they just spent a ton of money in free agency drafting wide or picking up wide receivers. And I would not be surprised if they took a wide receiver in the first round, like a Devontae Smith.
That would be, yeah. Devontae Smith and then Cam for one more year and then draft a quarterback next year.
Oh, Cam's so bad.
he he definitely struggled last year. You know, Cam was like the 14th like fantasy quarterback like per game last year
Yeah,
though.
because he ran 80 yards a game,
Dude,
and
he was like 2 touchdowns and 80 yards rushing a game. It was insane. He was like one of the better like running back, but good running back numbers basically. But that's how you're good at fantasy if you're a quarterback is the extra rushing yards.
dynasty superflex question:
Yep.
are the top 3 picks also going to be quarterbacks in dynasty superflex leagues?
Man, that depends on each situation because I feel
I would
like
say no.
yeah, because I feel like Chase is so good. I feel like Waddle is so good, and Devontae Smith. Like those 3 guys could be like staples in a dynasty.
And I think it's going to depend where like Najee gets drafted.
Right, and you always have the running back thing if they get in a good situation where they could be, they could be legit. Like you think of like Najee with the Dolphins or something like that, where he's in a good offense. He
Or
could,
if someone falls to the Steelers.
yeah, but the Steelers are like, meh, their offensive line is kind of falling apart. Ben's old.
Yeah, they have a new offensive coordinator though. I think
Yeah.
that'll help. With Ben being so old and beat up and doesn't have an arm, I could see them. They threw so much last year. Like, I mean, that's how they got around their run struggles was all of those short passes.
Yep.
They had a simulated run game, and I think it worked to an extent. But that's why I think you saw a lot of those drop passes. If Najee Harris went to the Steelers, like I think that's a top 2, top 3 pick in my opinion. But that's just me.
Yeah, I could see like I think honestly if like somebody, not Javonte Williams because I don't like him, but like ETN, if for some reason he fell to Buffalo like at 30, like that to me is super interesting, right? Because that's an
Yeah.
offense that put up a lot of points. That's a guy that they did not have a running game last year. The only thing that is always the worry, obviously, in Buffalo is Josh Allen gets so many rushing touchdowns. Like
Yeah.
he poaches them from the backs, but like ETN would be an explosive guy to put in that offense where to me, that would be a great landing spot for fantasy purposes for him. But
Agreed.
yeah, so let's talk Buffalo a little bit here since there's a local team here. AK, we'll go first with you. Who do you think that Buffalo takes, and why is it going to be a terrible pick?
I think that they're going to draft a corner. I don't know what corner, and
Yeah.
I think it's a terrible pick because they have Josh Norman.
I love it. All right, James. No, seriously though, who is a Bills fan? Who you thinking? Who you want?
I like guys like Newsome, Greg Newsome.
That's my
Cornerback like that.
You thinking defense?
Yeah, I think that's where they should go, especially after their last season. They've got to compete with Kansas City, and I think they already have the offense to. I don't know that they need to do much to the offense to take that next step on that side of the ball. I think shoring up the defense will help a little bit. And Kansas City is one of those teams where you're not gonna beat them in a low scoring game. Like, yeah, it's gonna be a high scoring game, but I mean, you have to get some stops here and there. And Buffalo was unable to do that in the AFC Championship game. So I think they're missing some pieces. On the defensive side of the ball, I think either cornerback just to build some depth there, or an edge rush, or just shoring up that rush that was pretty bad. I know Starr coming back will help them a bit this year. They missed him last year. That's what I'd like to see. The sexy pick, that I talked about, enjoying would be a running back. And I know a lot of Bills fans don't probably want to hear that. There's this, stigma of like never draft a running back in the first round. I think an exception can be made to a team that's kind of there. And I think Buffalo is there. I think that is a missing piece on their offense, that or a tight end, but the tight end class is not good for first round outside of Pitts. So I don't think that's a play there, and I think a running back would be a solid addition to their offense. So I wouldn't hate like a Najee Harris or the Travis Etienne picks, but hope they go defense.
Well, I can tell you, Greg Newsome is my guy. I can pull up some screenshots. I've been talking about January in our Slack chats for like, so I do a pod for Arrowhead Live, and I talked about him in January about how back then, obviously, Kansas City still had their first round pick, and I said he would be my like absolute favorite pick if they took him. He's a heck of a player. I think he's going to be a stud corner in the NFL. So I could see that. That would be a sweet pick. But yeah, I think I could see him going defense, especially with McDermott being the defensive minded guy that he is.
He is Newsom like a bigger bodied guy too? Is he like a Trey White? Like that's the kind of ideal profile that I know McDermott likes for their cornerbacks.
Yeah, he's like 6'1", 200 pounds ish, and he is physical as all hell. So that's part of the reason I like. He can play press. He's patient in his press, good with his hands, good feet, and then he's physical when he comes up and tackles.
I don't think he makes it that far.
Oh boy, a team like Indianapolis who picks a little bit ahead, a few spots.
Titans, Colts.
Yeah,
Green Bay.
Green Bay can need corners, so that'll be interesting because you got to figure Horn and Surtain are going to be gone by then. So I think Newsom's the third corner off the board. So if any of those teams go corner, it's going to be him.
Is Green Bay going to draft a starter in the first 2 rounds this year?
Let's hope so.
They better.
It's not going to be a wide receiver.
Poor Aaron Rodgers. My God. We'll have to, if they don't, he needs to get on the McAfee show and talk about it because that would be just unbelievable. Back just real quick, corner, I'll throw a name out there that might surprise some people that sneaks into the first, and it's Tyson Campbell of Georgia. I've read some things and I've seen some stuff on him. He's long, athletic, and kind of fits the man press NFL type profile. So I could see him being that kind of like, who the heck is that guy drafted in the first round? So, and for like, especially in that range with those cornerback needy teams.
Yeah, I've seen his name thrown out. I've seen the Saints taking him in some mocks. Caleb Farley is another name. I think he's had some injury concerns, but I've seen Caleb Farley is another cornerback to target. Another name for Buffalo that I've seen is the defensive tackle from Alabama, Christian Barmore.
Yep.
And I wouldn't hate that either.
Yeah, he's a stud. I tell you, it's pretty interesting too. You bring up the injury thing, and I saw that Peter Schrager kind of confirmed a tweet from him, Adam Schefter. Basically, they're both saying that it's been extremely hard for teams to get medical clearance on some of these players who are having medical issues because there was no combine this year. So, you talk about Caleb Farley, that it'll be interesting to kind of see what that does to his draft stock. He's a guy that had some injury concerns, and if you can't, if teams aren't getting able to get these medical clearances for whatever reason, like where does that kind of leave him? So it'll be interesting to see. I know there's some other players like that you worry about that stuff too. So definitely with COVID.
Those guys, one of them suggested you may see some teams punt this year and keep trading down and trade out of the first round. I wonder if we'll see more trades than usual because of that. If teams, if they have the one guy they want,
right?
If that guy goes, there may be too many concerns with the guys they like.
Right. I was also I forgot who was talking about it, but just said I forgot what percentage of players last year that were drafted in the 4th round or later got cut, but it was substantially higher than like league history. They said it's because there's no real off season for these rookies. So they're saying they could see a lot of teams packaging like a 4th, 5th, and 6th up with like a 3rd to move up into the 2nd and stuff. So you could see a lot of teams packaging those later round picks to move up even 4 or 5 spots.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I it'll be interesting to see. I think that the NFL is starting to come out with some of the protocols already about what's going to be happening, because I know a lot of the off-season stuff, as far as rookie stuff, is beginning of June, and that's when you look at the calendar, that's really only a month away. So I don't know if they're going to start with virtual stuff. I think that's what's the first word, is that you can do virtual meetings and then limited participations of stuff on the field. Who knows, I guess, is really the thing. So I'm hoping that we get back to a little bit of normalcy, a normal off season, normal people with fans in the stands and stuff. It'll be interesting to see, Goodell, he's vaccine. He can, make out with the dudes on the stage after they get drafted, like he did with Don Terry Paul, that legendary pitcher.
At least we don't have to see him getting all weird in his basement this year.
Dude, by the 30th, not even the 30th pick, like the 20th pick, he was drunk and like sleeping, I think. Like
Crushing M&Ms.
Crushing M&Ms, sitting there drinking Scott, quite certain.
Just a bowl of edibles.
And he's like, what? Who's got this pick? That's funny. All right. Final thoughts before we get out of here on the draft. AK, anything?
I mean, I'm expecting to be let down Thursday, the Bengals pick, so I'll probably be going to bed angry.
What is your hope? Who do you want for the Bengals?
Sewell and then Pitts.
Okay. I think that's fair. James, final thoughts?
How many first-round picks is Ryan Pace going to throw away to move up and draft a shitty quarterback? Again. I'm really, all jokes aside, I'm really curious to see what they do. I think they have the 20th pick. They need wide receivers, but I don't know that there's going to be a receiver worth taking at that spot. So that's a team that I'm curious to see what they do.
Yeah, there's definitely some wild cards for sure. And Bills, who's the AK gave two, so I'll give you two guys that you want the Bills to take.
One of the running backs, Harris or Etienne or Greg Newsome.
Fair enough. All right, everyone. My final thought is it's the draft. It's a great event. Sit back, enjoy yourself a drink, whatever that might be. Have fun with it. It's the start of the season really where, everybody kind of gets hope and it's the future. And, 4 years ago, I think it was today was it today or yesterday, the Kansas City Chiefs franchise changed when they traded up for Mr. Patrick Mahomes. Thanks, Bills. And three straight AFC championship games. So you never know what can happen. But Ballin Over Beers NFL show. Find us on Twitter at Jaded1617, Fitchy24, and Kenny Truelove, or at Ballin Over. We appreciate everybody being here. If you're watching on YouTube, smash the like button on your way out. Give us your team and what player you want your team to draft. And if you're listening to it on the podcast, make sure you're liking and giving us a 5-star review. It goes a long way to what we're doing. And then the last thing, I guess, is like I mentioned, I do a podcast for Arrowhead Live. If you head over to Arrowhead Live, we actually have over 135 pages of scouting reports on players. Myself and a bunch of the writers over there teamed up to do a project. So if you're looking to do the draft, there's a sale right now. It's only $5. And you get over 135 pages of scouting reports on every position. So you can't beat it with a stick, and it puts a little change in our pocket. So we appreciate that, and we'll talk to you next time.